Have you ever noticed how much pain comes from expecting people to become someone they have never shown themselves to be? We tell ourselves, maybe this time they'll understand. Maybe this conversation will be different. Maybe if I love them more, support them more, forgive them one more time, everything will change. But life has a way of teaching us a difficult truth. People reveal their character through consistent actions, not occasional promises. One of the greatest mistakes we make is falling in love with potential instead of reality. We become attached to the version of someone that exists only in our imagination. We remember the few moments when they were kind and ignore the hundreds of moments when they manipulated, criticized, or drained our energy. We convince ourselves that the good person we occasionally see is the real person, while their toxic behavior is just temporary. In reality, it is often the opposite. Patterns tell the truth. Repetition reveals character. The strongest people are not those who can change everyone around them. The strongest people are those who know when to stop trying. That doesn't mean becoming cold or losing compassion. It means replacing false hope with clear vision. There is incredible freedom in seeing people exactly as they are. When you remove illusion, confusion disappears. Suddenly, their behavior no longer surprises you because you understand it. You stop asking, "Why are they doing this to me?" and begin asking, "Why do I keep expecting something different from someone who has shown me who they are?" Many toxic people survive because others keep giving them endless second chances without requiring real change. They apologize when they fear losing access to you, not because they have transformed. They make promises when consequences arrive, only to return to the same habits once the pressure fades. Words become a performance. Actions reveal the truth. This is why wisdom demands observation over emotion. Watch how someone behaves when they don't get what they want. Watch how they speak about people who are absent. Watch how they respond to your success. Watch how they treat those who have nothing to offer them. Character is never revealed during comfortable moments. It is exposed during moments of frustration, disappointment, and power. Accepting someone's nature is not surrender, it is strategy. The moment you stop trying to rewrite another person's personality, you reclaim the energy you've been wasting. That energy can now be invested in your own growth, your peace of mind, your health, your purpose, and the relationships that genuinely deserve your attention. Too many people spend years trying to unlock a door that was never meant to open, while countless opportunities are waiting behind doors they have ignored. Your life changes the moment you stop chasing acceptance from those committed to misunderstanding you. You begin making decisions based on evidence instead of emotion. You stop negotiating with reality and start working with it. Remember this, your peace begins the day you stop expecting toxic people to become healthy people and start believing what their actions have been telling you all along. Once you begin accepting people for who they truly are, a remarkable shift takes place. You stop wasting energy trying to change them, and you start focusing on something far more powerful, controlling yourself. This is where real strength begins, because toxic people are not dangerous simply because of what they do. They become dangerous when they gain control over your emotions. Think about it. How many times has someone's criticism ruined your entire day? How many times have you replayed an argument in your mind for hours, even days? How many times has a negative comment stolen your focus, your confidence, or your peace? The moment someone can control your emotional state, they possess a level of influence over your life that they never earned. Toxic people understand this, whether consciously or unconsciously. They know that if they can provoke you, they can control the interaction. They know that if they can make you angry, defensive, guilty, or insecure, they can pull you into a game that benefits them. And the greatest mistake most people make is accepting the invitation. When someone attacks you, your instinct is to fight back. When someone insults you, your instinct is to defend yourself. When someone spreads negativity, your instinct is to prove them wrong. But every reaction gives them exactly what they wanted: your attention, your energy, and your emotional investment. The strongest person in the room is not always the loudest. It is often the calmest. Emotional detachment does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop allowing your emotions to be manipulated. It means you learn to pause before reacting. You learn to observe before speaking. You create space between what happens to you and how you choose to respond. Most people live in reaction mode. Someone says something offensive and they immediately explode. Someone disrespects them and they instantly retaliate. Their emotions become like a remote control held by other people. Every button can be pushed, every trigger can be activated. But imagine the power of becoming untriggerable. Imagine hearing criticism without losing confidence. Imagine facing disrespect without losing composure. Imagine being surrounded by negativity without allowing it to infect your mindset. That level of self-control changes everything. The truth is that emotional reactions are often expensive. A few seconds of anger can damage relationships, a moment of frustration can destroy opportunities, an impulsive response can create consequences that last for years. This is why discipline is not just about controlling your actions, it is about controlling your emotional impulses. When toxic people realize they cannot provoke you, something interesting happens. Their power begins to disappear, the drama loses its fuel, the manipulation loses its effectiveness. The conflict they were trying to create never fully develops because you refuse to participate. You do not have to win every argument. You do not have to correct every misunderstanding. You do not have to respond to every attack. Sometimes the highest form of intelligence is simply remaining calm while others lose control. Because when you master your emotions, you master the one thing toxic people were hoping to take from you, your peace. Once you stop giving toxic people your emotional reactions, the next step is even more important. You must control their access to your life. This is where many people fail. They recognize the problem, they understand the manipulation, they promise themselves things will be different, yet they continue allowing the same people unlimited access to their time, attention, and energy. Awareness without action changes nothing. If you truly value your peace, you must learn to protect it. One of the biggest misconceptions in life is that setting boundaries is rude. It isn't. Boundaries are not walls built to keep good people out. They are filters designed to keep unhealthy behavior from taking over your life. Every successful person, every emotionally strong person, and every peaceful person has learned one simple lesson. If you don't define your limits, someone else will define them for you. Toxic people rarely announce themselves. They test you instead. They ask for one favor, then another. They interrupt your priorities with their emergencies. They expect immediate replies, unlimited patience, endless forgiveness, and constant availability. Every time you sacrifice your own needs to satisfy theirs, you silently teach them that your time is less valuable than theirs. People treat you according to the standards you consistently enforce. If every insult is forgiven without consequence, they learn they can insult you again. If every broken promise is accepted, they learn promises are optional. If every act of disrespect is ignored, they learn respect is unnecessary. Your silence becomes permission. Your tolerance becomes their expectation. That is why saying no is one of the most powerful words you will ever master. Notice that emotionally healthy people usually respect boundaries. They may not always like them, but they understand them. Toxic people, however, become angry the moment you establish limits. Why? Because your boundary removes a privilege they were enjoying. They mistake access for entitlement. The moment you stop being available whenever they demand, they accuse you of changing. The truth is, you are changing, and that is exactly what makes them uncomfortable. Do not confuse guilt with responsibility. You are not responsible for carrying everyone else's emotional baggage. You are not obligated to solve problems people repeatedly create for themselves. You are not required to explain every decision that protects your mental well-being. Sometimes the healthiest sentence you can say is short, respectful, and final. That doesn't work for me. Remember, every time you say yes to something that violates your values, you are saying no to your own peace. Every unnecessary obligation steals time from your goals. Every unhealthy relationship occupies emotional space that could have been filled with growth, creativity, or genuine connection. Protect your mornings, protect your evenings, protect your focus, protect the people who genuinely support you. Most importantly, protect your self-respect. Once people realize they cannot cross your boundaries without consequences, they begin making a choice. They either learn to respect you or they remove themselves from your life. Either outcome is a victory. Never feel guilty for choosing peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, and self-respect over constant approval. The life you want begins the moment you decide that access to you is a privilege, not a right. Once your boundaries are in place, something fascinating begins to happen. You stop seeing people only through their words, and you begin seeing them through their patterns. This is where your greatest advantage is developed, not through force, not through confrontation, but through observation. Most people listen to what others say. Wise people watch what others repeatedly do. There is an enormous difference between hearing someone's promises and understanding their motives. Every person is driven by something beneath the surface. Some are driven by insecurity, others by envy. Some crave attention at any cost, while others seek control because they fear losing it. The mistake is believing that every action is exactly what it appears to be. Toxic people rarely operate in obvious ways. If manipulation were always visible, it would never work. It succeeds because it disguises itself as concern, friendship, kindness, or even love. Have you ever met someone who constantly gives advice you never asked for, yet somehow every conversation leaves you feeling smaller? On the surface, they appear helpful, but underneath, they may be protecting their own need to feel superior. Have you ever known someone who compliments you in public but quietly criticizes you in private? They are managing appearances while slowly weakening your confidence. Have you ever encountered someone who always presents themselves as the victim, regardless of the situation? That pattern often shifts responsibility away from themselves and places it onto everyone else. This is why you must become a student of human behavior rather than a prisoner of first impressions. Stop asking, "What did they say?" Start asking, "What happened after they said it?" Words can be rehearsed. Intentions are revealed by outcomes. A person may promise loyalty, but do they disappear when life becomes difficult? A person may claim to respect you, but do they repeatedly ignore your boundaries? A person may celebrate your achievements with a smile, yet subtly change the subject every time you succeed. The answers are not hidden. They are simply overlooked because emotions often blind us to evidence. One of the most valuable habits you can develop is learning to pause before assigning trust. Trust should not be given because someone is charming, persuasive, or confident. It should be earned through consistency over time. Anyone can wear a mask for a few weeks. Very few people can hide their true nature for years. Time has a remarkable way of exposing character. Pay close attention to how people behave when they gain something from you. Then watch how they behave when they gain nothing. Observe how they treat those who cannot advance their career, improve their status, or satisfy their desires. Character is often revealed in moments where there is nothing to gain. Another powerful lesson is to recognize emotional patterns instead of isolated events. A single mistake does not define a person. Everyone has bad days. But repeated dishonesty, repeated disrespect, repeated manipulation, those are no longer accidents. They are choices, and repeated choices become character. When you begin recognizing these patterns, you stop taking everything personally. You realize their behavior says far more about them than it does about you. The criticism, the jealousy, the manipulation, the silent treatment, the guilt, they are not random attacks. They are strategies rooted in their own unresolved struggles. Understanding this does not excuse their behavior, but it prevents you from becoming emotionally trapped by it. Your greatest strength is not seeing people as you wish they were. Your greatest strength is seeing them exactly as they are and acting accordingly. Once you learn to recognize people's motives instead of being fooled by their words, your focus naturally begins to shift. You spend less time analyzing them and more time investing in yourself. And that is the turning point. Because the ultimate victory over toxic people is not proving them wrong. It is becoming so strong that their opinions no longer have the power to define you. Think about how much of life is wasted seeking approval from people who were never capable of giving it. We change our behavior to satisfy them. We silence our ambitions to avoid their criticism. We hide our success because we fear their jealousy. We shrink ourselves so that insecure people can feel comfortable. But no matter how much you sacrifice, it is never enough. The approval you chase keeps moving farther away because it was never meant to be yours in the first place. The moment you understand this, you stop building your identity on someone else's opinion. Your confidence begins to come from your own actions, your own discipline, and your own values. That kind of confidence cannot be taken away by criticism because it was never built on applause. Toxic people often search for weakness before they search for opportunity. They pay attention to your doubts, your fears, your need for validation, and your desire to be accepted. Those become the doors through which manipulation enters. But when you become emotionally secure, those doors begin to close. There is very little anyone can use against a person who no longer needs constant approval. That is why your greatest investment is always yourself. Invest in your mind, read books that challenge your thinking, learn skills that make you more valuable, strengthen your body so that your energy matches your ambitions, build financial independence so that fewer people can control your choices, develop emotional intelligence so that temporary emotions never make permanent decisions. Every hour spent improving yourself increases your freedom. Notice something about truly confident people. They do not spend every day trying to convince others of their worth. They are too busy creating a life that reflects it. They understand that real confidence is quiet. It does not demand attention. It does not chase validation. It simply continues moving forward regardless of who believes in it. There will always be people who criticize your progress because your growth reminds them of their own excuses. There will always be people who question your decisions because they lack the courage to make bold decisions themselves. Do not allow their limitations to become your limits. Success has an interesting effect on relationships. It reveals who is genuinely happy for you and who is only comfortable when you remain small. Some people celebrate your dreams until those dreams begin to come true. Then the compliments become silence, the encouragement becomes criticism, and the friendship becomes competition. Do not be surprised by this. Growth has a way of exposing hidden intentions. Your responsibility is not to make everyone comfortable with your success. Your responsibility is to become the best version of yourself. Every step you take toward greater discipline, wisdom, health, purpose, and self-respect makes you less dependent on external approval and more connected to your own potential. The more complete you become within yourself, the less power toxic people have over your emotions. Their insults lose their sting because your confidence no longer comes from them. Their rejection loses its weight because your value no longer depends on their acceptance. Their negativity becomes background noise because your attention is fixed on a future they cannot see. The strongest response to toxic people is not revenge, anger, or endless arguments. It is building a life so meaningful, so disciplined, and so fulfilling that their opinions become too small to matter. As you continue becoming stronger, wiser, and more emotionally independent, you eventually reach the final lesson, the lesson that separates those who remain trapped from those who finally become free. It is the courage to walk away. Not every relationship can be repaired. Not every friendship deserves another chance. Not every battle is worth fighting. One of the greatest forms of wisdom is knowing when your presence is no longer serving your future. Many people stay in toxic relationships far longer than they should, not because they are weak, but because they are attached to history. They think about the years they invested, the memories they created, the sacrifices they made. They convince themselves that leaving would mean all those years were wasted. But holding on to something harmful simply because you have already invested so much only guarantees that you will lose even more. Life moves in one direction, forward. Yet so many people keep looking backward, hoping the past will suddenly become the future they imagined. They wait for apologies that never come. They wait for respect that is never shown. They wait for change that never arrives. Meanwhile, opportunities pass by, peace slips away, and precious years disappear. There comes a moment when you must ask yourself a simple but life-changing question. If I met this person today, knowing everything I know now, Would I invite them into my life? That question removes emotion and replaces it with clarity. And clarity is often uncomfortable because it forces you to face truths you have been avoiding. Walking away is not an act of anger, it is an act of self-respect. Too often people believe they need a dramatic ending. They think every relationship requires one final argument, one final explanation, one final attempt to make the other person understand. But the truth is, some people are committed to misunderstanding you. No explanation will satisfy someone who benefits from your confusion. No amount of honesty will change someone determined to twist your words. Sometimes silence communicates more powerfully than 1,000 conversations ever could. Leaving does not always mean physically disappearing overnight. Sometimes it begins with emotional distance. You stop participating in unnecessary drama. You stop chasing people who never chased you. You stop volunteering your energy where it is constantly wasted. You become intentional about where your time, attention, and emotions are invested. Remember this: every yes to a toxic environment is a no to your own growth. Every day spent surrounded by constant negativity is a day taken away from your dreams. Your future cannot fully grow in soil that constantly poisons your spirit. Some people will call you selfish for choosing peace. Others will accuse you of changing. Accept the criticism. Growth always looks like betrayal to those who benefited from the old version of you. They are not mourning the relationship. They are mourning the control they once had. The people who truly care about you will never require you to abandon your dignity in order to keep them in your life. Healthy relationships do not demand that you constantly prove your worth. They inspire trust, encourage growth, and create peace instead of exhaustion. Once you experience that difference, you will never again mistake chaos for love or manipulation for loyalty. Never fear starting over. Fear staying where your spirit is slowly being diminished. Fear becoming so accustomed to disrespect that it begins to feel normal. Fear reaching the end of your life, realizing that you spent your greatest years trying to earn a place in the lives of people who never truly valued you. Protect your future with the same determination that you once used trying to save relationships that were never meant to last. The greatest act of courage is not holding on. It is having the wisdom to let go and never look back.